Thank you, Master Taíno, for coming on to Leather Mosaic. I have spent the past week reading through your website, listening to it on the headphones while I'm at the microscope and trying to pick up extra details that I can. And I've just been endlessly fascinated by the fact of how much you stress the concept of the family, the leather family, that is. So, given the fact that you've also done other interviews and there's this wealth of information about you that's out there, I wanted to hone in on that a little bit more specifically. So, just to begin with, here in this beautiful home, can you walk me through what a typical day is like in your leather family here?
Well, there are two things in the leather family. One is the household, and the other one is the family that we create. I always was fascinated by the concept of family because I come from big families. And then I figured out that I was poly. So that was the kind of things that brought me into this. In the past, I have had up to 3 or 4 slaves living with me, or sometimes some outside. Right now, I only have slave Paul, who has been with me for 8 years. We lost a slave, David, 4 years ago. But it's a normal household.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I understand we bring to our mastery who we are. And I'm a family man, not only with my parents, growing up in Puerto Rico in a Latin culture, etc. But then I decided, even though I was a gay man, I decided to be a parent because that was also part of who I was. So I adopted 3 kids and raised 2 others, foster children. So I also had a time as a parent to have that family thing. So when I get into the leather community almost 30 years ago, that was part of what I wanted, and I just have to give it shape. So it has evolved in 2 ways. At the beginning, it was just me and my slaves. And about close to 10 years ago is when I began to expand it, and it came with one person that I met, I was mentoring, and I say, you know, this is what I want as a family. People who are like-minded, people who respect me. And that's a way we had now several other couples and single people in the master-slave dynamic who are part of the family. So family is my household, but family also are the 12 people that compose my leather family. At home, there's nothing different. I'm retired, so I spend more time at home. Slave Paul works part-time, 3 days a week. One thing that I have very important for me, because I have done it in all my families, is dinner time.
Mm-hmm.
And dinner time, we sit in the table as a family, and nothing changed that. You know, it's one of the things that keep us together. No matter how busy we are during the day, there is a time that we sit down as a family, and I have been doing this for years. But you know, it is nothing different. In our case, the only thing different that I would say is that also as a family, we have a passion for what we do in education in the community. You know, I founded MTTA. One of the things that complement me with my slave Paul at this moment is that he embraced that passion. And now we both, master and slave, are partners in bringing MTTA, the academy, the conference together. So there is times in the year, especially in the summer, that all our conversation, everything goes of things related to even conversation during dinner time are things related to the conference. But that's what we enjoy.
Mm-hmm. And so dinners are a ritual. Are there any other rituals that take place here on a schedule with your slaves?
I used to have some others, some mantras and stuff, but slave Paul. One thing that we have to understand as mastery, we don't have to understand where our slave come from. Everybody has a baggage, everybody has life experiences that mold how you like. And then the previous experiences that he had with other masters did not make him too prone to mantras and to rituals because they were all ended up being meaningless. So we don't have that. I greet him in the morning with a big hug because he's a bear and he's a hugger, and that's what he likes. So that's the way we deal. And the protocols are very basic, are based in respect. Show respect all the time, and you're okay. But they're the simple things like don't start eating until master start eating, don't sit down until master sit down, that kind of thing. Open the door, But I am very, very loose in my dynamic, precisely for where I come from. If somebody want to be my slave and he's looking for a structure, military type, not your guy.
Okay. With that too, I saw that you also on your website you have an in-home dungeon somewhere
Yes.
around here. So are you also still playing at home with your slaves?
I play at home, but my slave and I don't have a sexual relationship, and we play very few occasions that he really needed. That's not what make our dynamic. But I do have my dungeon. The only issue I have, out of respect for my slave, is that I don't play late at night because he sleep next to the dungeon. So and he go to bed early because he woke up early. So, but yeah, I still have the dungeon and I play not as often as I used to play before. One of the reason is that the people who reach out to me normally are young people because I'm attracted to them and because I like to help and educate them. So when you are very new in this, the dungeon could be a little bit overwhelming. So my room has other things that are prepare me for that.
Okay. Okay. Well, then that makes me wonder, how do you handle disobedience?
Communication. I don't. With my slave Paul, I don't. We don't need. There is no punishment. There's nothing. First of all, I don't believe in any physical punishment, nothing like that. I think that BDSM is to connect. It's not to be used for something other purposes. But no, whenever we have an issue, we just sit down and talk. That's the problem solver. There's no reason. Sometimes he needs his time. Sometimes I need mine. But there's no other way to solve problems than communication.
Okay. I was also just curious, have you ever had to, in your training and mentoring, have you ever had to dismiss anyone?
Yeah, but not often. One of the things I learned, it's funny because in MSc this year, I presented for the first time a class of what I learned from parenting that I applied to my mastery. And one of the things that I learned, or two things that I learned as a parent, is be patient and don't give up. And so I have applied that to my mastery, and have, for instances, when Slade told me even that he was a wonderful slave and I love him dearly, but it got in my nerves. And obviously this was a young man, 37 years old, who was facing death. And the thought about sending him to hell and then I realized to change gears. And instead of trying to make him a good slave, I was trying to make him to have the best time of his life before he died.
Okay.
And that I was rewarded because when he died, I was able to hold his hand to the last breath, and that was an experience that I don't change. As sad as that it was an amazing, powerful experience. Who validated the family concept? So if I would have not been patient with him and I would have dismissed him, I would have not get that experience. The same with, for example, with Slade Neal, who served me a couple of years. He was in New York. He couldn't relocate. So it comes a moment that I realize this is not going to grow. This is not going anywhere. But I decided to wait until he realized the same thing. Because if I tell him, I'm going to uncolor you, he will, at that moment in his life, he will feel abandoned, and that was not going to be productive. So I waited several months, and effectively he comes one day and figure out exactly what I already have figured out, but it became better. Even the uncoloring ceremony was more powerful than the coloring 2 years later, and it was completely private between him and I. That's a moment that I always cherish. And there was a couple of occasions, but mostly with people who has been here very short time that just didn't work out. But I have been very good in giving the opportunities to people to figure out things, and sometimes that avoid me having to tell him you have to go. They go they figure out. That doesn't mean that I cannot. If I lose trust on somebody, yeah, that will be a reason for dismissing somebody.
Okay. You started to touch a little bit on religion and spirituality from what I took of that when you were talking about your relationship with your slave. And when I listened to another interview, you had mentioned that you were raised Roman Catholic. Are you still Catholic to this day?
I am, in the sense that it's part of my culture, and to say I'm not Catholic, that will be kind of strange. But I have built my Christianity and my Catholicism my way, the way I understand, the way it works for me. Meaning, I don't care what the hierarchy says. I don't care about all these rules and all this stuff that they do. My Catholicism and my Christianism is simple, is helping other people. That is the basis of Christianism. It's very simple. I don't know why people have to complicate it with all these buildings and hierarchy and don't do this and don't do that. To the extreme that even when I talk with this in my classes, when we do the academy, I told the slave and the masters who come here, while I'm doing this class, I'm practicing my Christianism, because I am taking my time with the skills and life experiences that I have been given to help you live a better life. That is my forte. That is what I know, and I am using it to try to help other people. And even when I got a new guy coming to explore their submission, etc., who they don't know almost anything about it, yeah, I like to have fun. But I spend more time talking to them, helping them to figure out what this is all about, what is in their heart, because that is what I like to do. I like to help people, and I think that is my Christian job. There is another reason also why I like to be helping and educating right and left, and it's because when I was young, I didn't have anybody. In the 60s, 70s, I was a lonely island with nobody to talk to. So if I could help somebody early in their journey to figure out, to understand better what this is all about, I feel very fulfilled.
Okay. So that also too, I was raised Catholic myself also. Did you, and I feel like one of the byproducts of being raised Catholic, there are strong family values, but there almost sometimes it feels like a self-loathing or punishment aspect of it. Did you feel, as you were going through the process of coming out as a gay man, and even to this day, was that difficult for you to reconcile?
It was a process. It was a big process because as I write in my book, I was raised between priests and nuns, and I was a seminarian during my high school. So when you are involved so deeply in church and everything, in our Latin culture, every town in Puerto Rico, the center of the town is a square with a Catholic church. And then the city hall is in the side. So the Catholic church is like the one who controls, the one who and it's difficult to. So through my journey to accept myself as a gay man, etc., it was tough. There was a book that I read, and then I read about 3 or 4 books of that author. It was a Jesuit priest, John McNeil, who wrote a book about the church and homosexuality. And he hit it so clearly that was the book that made me breathe better, because he separate your belief in God, in helping people, etc., the concepts of our religion versus the human side of the church. So I tend to help the human side of the church, and I deal with what the Christianism is all about: love and helping people. And whatever the Pope, the Bishop, I don't care about that. I don't care about the rituals. I don't, there's some things that, and then with the things that have happened through the years, I even have problems identifying. Uh, um, I could go to a dignity mass and feel better, but if I would go to a church with regular people, I just don't feel. Because if they will know who I am, I will be ostracized. And I think I'm a good person.
And so then with that, you do create a strong family household and values. Have you experienced then from the slave boys that have come and sought you out, or interns or visitors, had they experienced the opposite of that? Had they come from perhaps bad households? Had any been in recovery, and perhaps you were providing something, a family that they didn't have?
There's a little bit of everything, and definitely there are some young men who need a structure or need a father figure. We live in a society that a lot of people are being raised by single people, being mother or fathers. They always were abused, uh, um, and there are others who just came from very loving, similar home like me. And in the matter of religion, I have had here everything from Jewish, Wiccan, Catholic, other Christians. That's something that I tell people in my classes. Master cannot control. Your spirituality is your spirituality. You cannot impose what you believe in others, and you have to respect what your slave believe, and allow them to practice whatever they are.
So you do touch on, and from what I've read then, about making a distinction between master slavery and BDSM and abuse. Have you, in this case, I guess what I was getting at, have you also been providing like direct recovery to anyone in bad situations before? Because you seem to take a very clear and adamant stance about being
I
concerned
try
about
to
abuse.
help people with whatever situation they are, with my abilities. I'm not a psychologist. But I have enough life experiences. Almost 68 years old now. Um, but the the way I help more people is with first of all, for me, master slave is about responsibility by the master and surrender by the slave. That's all it takes. The BDSM and the sex, those are activities that could be part or could not. And nowadays you see more people of different sexual orientation doing relationships. So that's perfectly fine. But with my flogging, who I call it cathartic flogging, I am part of a group that practice this as a healing, a spiritual, therapeutic experience. So I sometimes surprise myself with how I have been able to help people deal with issues, with past issues of abuse, abandonment, grieving, breakup of relationship, all kind of different things that through my flogging they are able to heal. And that was something I never planned to. It just evolved and happened. I always, since I even was in the community, had a fascination for flogging, going back to Catholics and monks who used to auto-flagellation. That always called my attention. But the daddy who helped me learn about BDSM, he did a flogging that ended up being cathartic to me. When I experienced that, it was like, wow, if I'm going to do this, this is what I want people to experience. And then as I begin to do that and to find a way to guide people into having that experience, I realized that people began to, when they have the emotional release at the end of the flogging, they let go past abuse, losses, grieving, whatever. So it become pretty much a healing experience. For others, was a spiritual experience. And now I got people who just come to me, both masters and slave, doms and subs, straight or gay, male or female. they come to me when they have an issue and say, I need it and I love. Right now, before the conference a couple of weeks ago, there was a young dominant, straight, who called me and said, sir, are you taking the floggers to MSC? He said, normally I don't. He said, well, I need a flogging. He said, okay, I will take them. And oh God, he needed. And for me, it's amazing the experience of being able to help somebody get grounded and deal with the issue that they have and let it go. So that has been a blessing of part, and I don't call it a BDSM experience anymore. This is a different thing. Yes, I use a BDSM toy to achieve, but I don't see this as BDSM for the most part.
So, going on to the topic of flogging, do you have a spiritual connection or to a flogger or a particular piece? Do you feel it's a spiritual act? Sometimes people into single tails, for me, I'm kind of wooey about my whip or anything at that point, and the effects it can have and the energy that's going in between. Do you have a particular...
You bet. Starting with the music, I have been bought those CDs in Spain, 1994. I have been using this for 24 years. I have been flogging in my dungeon with the Gregorian chants. So write the music, get you in a spiritual mindset. And yes, I have my core of floggers who are, they cannot be replaced. They were done for Sarah Lashes, who retired 18 years ago. So my floggers are old, but they're in great shape. But for example, I do have a flogger from Lady Lynette, who died 3 years ago, who was my leather sister. I used that flogger one time with Paul precisely, and he could feel the energy from Lady Lynette. I have a tomcat that was owned before me by Guy Baldwin and Master Steve Sampson, my two mentors, the people who showed me this journey, and the energy is there as well. I just got, as a gift 2 weeks ago, one of the floggers from Master David Cook, and I cannot wait to use it to see how the energy of Master David is going to be reflected. I strongly believe on that. And I have other pieces from other people, and yeah, definitely there is an energy, there is a spirituality. It's something that you cannot explain. I don't even have sometimes word to explain what happened with the toys that you use and who owned them before me or whatever. But there is a lot of spirituality there, no question about that.
Do you have, and if you're comfortable telling me, do you have a piece that connected you to Slave Tommy in particular?
No, but I keep a lot of things from Tommy through 17 years now. I have his collar, I have his handkerchief, I have pictures, I have a lot of things that give me a picture. There is a picture of him in my dungeon that is have been part of the dungeon for 17 years. There is a lot of things that keep me connected to him.
So I confess, because his story and your relationship with Slave Tommy was the most moving and stood out to me the most. So I was reading through on the bio page, and then finally got to the letter that you found called An Even Longer Journey. And so it seemed to be a chronicle month by month of these fantastic moments. I want to make sure I have this right. Between it was 2000 and 2001.
Mm-hmm.
There was one entry that stood out to me, and I just wanted to ask this question because he writes in here, it was October of 2000, and he spoke of, he wrote about the fact that it was a birthday present that was the perfect birthday present that he got for you, and you were grateful and that he appreciated it, but didn't say what the present was. And
His
so
birthday was in October. My God.
I know. So it's a long time ago, but I was like, it was, I couldn't go to sleep normally after reading that. I was like, what? I'm trying to picture.
I honestly don't remember what I remember. Who is the anecdote that that Tommy used to live 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in his house in Atlanta. And in January of 2001 is the first time he got really sick that ended up in the hospital twice that month. And I went there. I flew there the second time. And Tommy always was concerned that I will find another younger pretty boy and I will dismiss him. That was part of his insecurity. And during that trip, when I went there in January, it was over. It was. I don't know why that was what he needed to understand that I was going to stick with him until the last minute, and I did. And that is, I do remember that it was important for him because that was when he finally knew that I was not going to go anywhere. And I relate to that because with my children who were adopted, they have the same attitude. They were waiting to mess up, so they will have to go to another home because that's what they did for years. So my job with my children was to make sure that they knew this home was forever. And that's what happened with Tommy. And that for me was the best gift that I was able to give him. I try to remember that so many years what I may have given him in October. But maybe a good flogging, a good spanking that he liked it so much. But
No, just reading about his journey and his story, it was very moving, and just the picture that someone could end their days being surrounded by so much love and family, and everything for me. It was I couldn't go back to sleep or anything after reading it. It was
it's
really
interesting.
moving.
I have heard people throughout the years how that section in my website about Tommy touched so many people. So many years that he died, but it's still the thing, and that's why they're there, because that's part of my legacy and part of his legacy. I keep him alive through that page.
And I know that was for me, but it was a heavy note to come to more of a close on with what we've been talking about. But how today, with everything that's going on, what do you feel, especially with, I don't know what to call it, the orange asshole we have in charge right now? Do you feel that the MS community at this time that we are potentially in danger, under attack, our days numbered, having such a conservative element making a sweep across America?
I am a little bit concerned with where we're going as a country with all the things that are happening. I hope that now there is enough outrage to stop. The problem is it's going to take a while to restore everything. But independently of that, that doesn't stop me doing what I want to do and what I have been doing for years, and it's continue educating and helping the community to be the best we can. Master Steve Sampson, who was my mentor in my early journey as a master, he gave me one time a response to a question I asked him about how we help people, and he told me one heart at a time. And that's what I try to focus my life in, trying to help one person, one heart, one boy, one girl at a time. Obviously, the journey has taken me to areas that I never suspected, and now in the academy we may have 10 at a time or 15 at a time, and in the conference we have 500 at a time. But the ability that I could do this in my retirement and do things that help people is really amazing, and it's what drives me in my journey, and that's why I'm here.
Master Taíno, I just wanted to say thank you so much for appearing on Leather Mosaic. Everyone go to mastertaino.com. There's a wealth of information on there, and it will the content is riveting, and just reading about the stories of the people, of you and your family and everyone came about, it's truly a gift. And thank you for all of your work, sir. It has been a true honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.